Reverse logistics optimization is no longer a nice to have. Apparel brands need cohesive strategies that account for speed, efficiency, and cost. When formulating a reverse logistics strategy for your apparel brand, you really want to pay close attention to the following elements: policies, partners, data, capacity, and logistics. When taking action, consider these 7 reverse logistics optimization strategies. Are your returns policies clear? Review and revise your procedures that are related to your company's returns policies. Make sure they're clear and consider the root causes of your returns. It's very important to understand why returns are actually happening. And the way a brand deals with returns really can be a competitive differentiator. Close collaboration with suppliers can help ensure a smooth, integrated customer experience. And not having a close collaboration with suppliers is obviously going to make for a disjointed experience for your customer, but also what it's going to do is it's going to make the process of offloading second quality goods a lot more difficult and slow it down. It's going to make the process of figuring out what you're going to do from a disposition standpoint of goods that maybe need to be donated. You're going to have a harder time getting that off the ground as well. Every time you have to start thinking about these things, it's a mental lift on your team. And ultimately what can happen is those things will just sit there because no one has the time to actually deal with it. But if you have a game plan in place and you have suppliers in place who can help you, then it's so simple. As soon as there's X number of units, you know that it's going to go to this channel and you make the phone call and it's done. Do you have technologies in place right now to collect data points on your returns? Collecting data on product returns may help you understand why customers are returning products. This allows insight to make adjustments when it comes to sales, product design, and forward or traditional logistics processes accordingly. A great example, let's say that you are an apparel brand where you sell prom dresses and you have a 6-week window that's going to be a peak season for you. Prom dresses are going to have probably a 50% return rate, if not higher, especially if you're selling a lot D2C. It takes you 10 days to get that product back in stock. All of a sudden, you're having to either buy 25% more stock than you actually needed, or you're losing out on 25% of the sales that you could have had. So understanding that data, understanding your numbers, and seeing kind of what is driving those returns is really, really impactful to your bottom line. Are you tracking product issues currently? As an example in the food industry, linking raw materials to finished goods and then to customers allows you to trace ingredients in the event that you have to issue a recall. And if you have really strong data, a lot of times instead of issuing a full recall, you may be able to issue a select recall instead of having to fully bring back a whole product line. In the apparel space, or even in the children's baby toy space, we've seen this before where you've got a customer and they realize that some of the materials that were made were going to be choking hazards. The product needs to be reworked, but then it can be put back on the shelves. You need to be able to trace from a PO perspective where those goods went, which stores received them, and check and see how many units actually made it back for the recall, how many units were processed for the rework, and then how many units can then be resold. So the traceability piece is really important here. Do you have a dedicated or a centralized facility for your product returns? With a centralized return center, you can better sort products and better identify the next best step for each item. Centralization can help your brand more efficiently determine how best to reclaim product value. As those goods are being returned, they can be immediately put back to stock. If your brand lacks the resources to have an optimized internal process for managing returns, it really may be beneficial for you to consider partnering with a 3PL that focuses on apparel as well as value-added services. So you want to regularly review your forward logistics as well as your reverse logistics strategy when it comes to transportation to make sure and to see if it's feasible to integrate some of those processes and cut out some of that transit. So a great example, a customer purchases an item and decides that they want to return it. If you have a dedicated returns facility at this point that is not also distribution for you, what will happen is the customer will return it to the return center. The return center will then have to send it to the distribution center, and then the distribution center will put it back in stock and send it out to another customer as the item is resold. So if you cut out that process of having a separate location and you co-locate your reverse logistics and your forward logistics operation, all of a sudden you've cut out a leg. And what I mean by that is now the customer places a return. That return is going back to the return center / distribution center. It immediately goes back into stock, and then it can be sold again to the next person, and you only have 3 legs rather than 4. How are you tracking asset recovery, managing the refurbishment process, and providing business intelligence analytics? Using cloud-based logistics softwares can really help streamline operations. For example, within your WMS, you can probably create validation rules by SKU so that anytime a return comes in, that item, there's automatically a system in place for how that item is going to be managed. Maybe you have a $600 jacket and you want to spend $20 on refurbishment. You'll have those notes in the system by SKU, and you'll know exactly where to move that item from solid, clean inventory to needs refurbishment. Maybe you have an item that's $3 and you just want to donate. Whenever that return is processed, there will be instructions in there that say this item should go in the donation pile. A lot of great ways that you can leverage your existing WMS technology to really help manage the reverse logistics process. It's never been easier to track asset recovery, manage the refurbishment process, and provide very powerful business intelligence analytics. Watch this next video to make data-driven decisions at each step of the supply chain.